Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be unpacking a story from the Bible that's both really moving and surprisingly relevant to you today.
Yeah.
We're turning to Genesis chapter 48,
Okay.
a passage from the King James Version,
Right.
and we'll be using Matthew Henry's commentary from 1710 to kind of make sense of it all.
Sounds good.
So to set the scene,
Okay.
the story revolves around Jacob, who is the patriarch of Israel
Yes.
as he's nearing the end of his life.
Right.
His son Joseph brings his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, to receive their grandfather's blessing.
And it's a really powerful scene, full of emotion and deeper meaning.
Yeah, now you might think, okay, a blessing, that's sweet,
Yeah.
but in this context, it's so much more than just a nice gesture.
Right.
This is a patriarchal blessing, a moment that would shape the destiny of these two grandsons and their tribes.
Yeah, this blessing wasn't about who got the bigger piece of land or a nicer
Yeah.
camel.
Right.
This was about their future significance within the entire lineage of Israel.
Okay, so the stage is set. Jacob is on his deathbed, and Joseph brings his sons to him.
Okay.
Joseph carefully positions them with the elder son, Manasseh, on Jacob's right side, and Ephraim, the younger, on his left.
Wow.
This was the traditional order for bestowing blessings,
Right.
right hand for the firstborn.
Yeah.
And here's where things take a fascinating turn.
Okay.
Jacob crosses his hands and places his right hand on Ephraim's head instead.
You can imagine the confusion.
Yeah.
Joseph immediately tries to correct his father,
Right.
thinking it's a mistake due to Jacob's old age and failing eyesight.
Yeah, like
Yup.
that. Are you sure?
It really highlights how ingrained these societal norms were,
Yes.
even in such a deeply spiritual moment.
It's almost as if you can picture Joseph saying, Dad, are you sure you're doing it backwards?
Exactly.
But as we learn from the text, Jacob knows exactly what he's doing.
He does.
He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, I know, my son, I know. They will both be great, but the younger one will be greater than the older, and his descendants will become a multitude of nations.
Wow.
So that tells us that Jacob isn't just expressing a personal preference.
Right.
He's acting prophetically guided by God.
Yes.
He's intentionally choosing to give the greater blessing to the younger son.
Yeah, this raises so many questions about human expectations versus divine intervention.
And this isn't just some feel-good story about defying expectations.
No.
It has real historical weight.
Okay.
Remember that moment when the northern tribes of Israel split from the southern tribes, forming their own kingdom?
Of course, that division had a huge impact on the history of Israel.
It did. It led to conflicts, political upheaval, and even contributed to their eventual conquest by Assyria.
Yeah.
Well, guess which tribe led that northern kingdom? Yep, it was Ephraim.
Wow.
They became a dominant force, a powerful tribe, just as Jacob had foretold.
That's why this seemingly simple act of blessing is so profound. It wasn't just a personal affair. It had huge implications for the unfolding narrative of the entire Israelite nation.
And it makes you wonder if something that seems so small on the surface can have such massive consequences. What does that tell us about the choices we make in our own lives?
That's a great question.
And this is where Matthew Henry's commentary really adds another layer of meaning.
Okay.
He talks about how these deathbed scenes were potent moments for imparting wisdom to younger generations and leaving a spiritual legacy.
Yes.
It's as if Jacob is saying, look, worldly success isn't everything. What matters most is aligning yourself with God's will, even if it means challenging the status quo.
That's powerful.
That's a powerful message, isn't it? It challenges us to think about what we truly value.
It does.
Are we chasing after fleeting worldly success, or are we striving for something more enduring, something that transcends our earthly existence?
It gets even more intriguing when you consider this concept of divine providence.
Okay, yeah.
Basically, it means that God is guiding events, even seemingly insignificant ones, toward a specific outcome.
So you're saying that maybe Jacob wasn't just making a choice on his own, but was actually being guided by God's hand to set in motion events that would shape the future of Israel.
Exactly. And that raises another fascinating question,
Okay.
which is, what about free will?
Right.
If God is orchestrating everything, then where does our own agency come into play? It's a complex theological puzzle that has puzzled people for centuries.
Yeah, hold on. Let me process all of this. We've gone from a simple blessing to prophetic pronouncements, historical turning points, and now we're wrestling with the very nature of free will versus divine destiny. This is definitely a deep dive.
And we're only just getting started.
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and recap what we've learned so far. We have this powerful scene with Jacob blessing his grandsons.
Yes.
But he does it in a way that defies expectations, giving the greater blessing to the younger son, Ephraim.
And this seemingly small act had a ripple effect that impacted the course of Israelite history, with Ephraim's tribe eventually rising to prominence.
But it's not just about the historical details. It's about what this story tells us about faith, legacy, and the mysterious ways in which God works in the world.
And how, even in moments that might seem insignificant, there can be deeper meanings and profound implications that we might not fully grasp at first glance.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It is.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to continue our deep dive into Jacob's blessing.
Sounds good.
So we've established that this blessing wasn't just some sweet moment between a grandfather and his grandsons.
Right?
It was a pivotal event that really shaped the future of Israel.
It was.
But what's really intriguing is how this story resonates with us on a personal level,
Yeah.
even thousands of years later.
That's the beauty of these ancient texts, isn't it? They speak to universal truths that transcend time and culture.
Exactly. So let's go back to Joseph for a moment.
Okay.
Imagine you're in his shoes.
Okay.
You've brought your sons to receive this incredibly important blessing,
Mm-hmm.
and then your father does something that completely upends your expectations.
Yeah.
How do you think you would have reacted?
I think anyone in that situation would have been thrown off guard.
Yeah.
It's natural to want to question or correct what we perceive as a mistake,
Right.
especially when it comes to matters of family and inheritance.
Right. It's like, hold on, Dad, are you sure you're seeing this right?
Exactly.
But what's fascinating is that Joseph, despite his initial confusion,
Yeah,
eventually submits to his father's decision.
he does.
He doesn't argue or try to force Jacob to change his mind.
There's a profound lesson in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's about learning to trust in a wisdom that's greater than our own,
Right.
even when it doesn't make sense to us at the time.
It makes me think about those times in my own life when I've felt like things weren't going according to plan.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't get the job I wanted or a relationship didn't work out.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in the disappointment and frustration of the moment.
And it is.
But what if, like Joseph, we could step back and say, okay, I don't understand why this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
but I trust that there's a bigger picture at play here.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It's about surrendering our need for control
Right.
and embracing the possibility that there might be a divine plan unfolding,
yeah.
even when it doesn't align with our immediate desires.
And it's not just about blind faith, right? It's about looking for those moments where
Yeah,
even in the midst of challenges, we can see glimpses of something greater emerging.
exactly. It's about having the discernment to recognize that sometimes what we perceive as setbacks or detours
Right.
might actually be leading us towards a more fulfilling path.
This whole idea of surrendering to a higher power can be a bit tricky, though, can't it?
It can.
Especially in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with messages about taking control of our own destiny and
Wow.
being the masters of our own fate.
It's definitely a tension that many people struggle with.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we want to believe that we have the power to shape our own lives.
Right.
But on the other hand, there's this deep-seated yearning for something greater than ourselves.
Right.
A sense that there might be a guiding force at work in the universe.
So how do we reconcile those two seemingly contradictory impulses?
I think it's about finding a balance.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we do have free will,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to make choices and take actions that shape our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also about acknowledging that there are forces at play that are beyond our control,
Right.
and that sometimes the best course of action is to surrender to those forces and trust that they are leading us where we need to go.
It's like we're co-creating our lives with something bigger than ourselves.
Yes.
We bring our intentions and efforts to the table, but we also have to be open to the possibility that there might be a divine hand guiding the process.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's a dance between our human agency and the divine will,
Right.
a collaboration that can lead to something truly extraordinary if we're willing to let go of our need for absolute control.
Okay, so we've talked about Joseph's reaction and this idea of surrendering to a higher power, but there's another layer to this story that I find particularly fascinating,
Okay.
and that's the role of prophecy.
Ah, yes. The idea that Jacob's blessing wasn't just a personal expression of favoritism, but a divine revelation about the future.
Exactly, and what's really mind-blowing is that his prophecy actually came true.
It did.
Ephraim's descendants did become a large and influential tribe in Israel, just as Jacob had foretold.
It makes you wonder about the nature of time, doesn't it?
It does.
How is it possible for someone to see into the future with such clarity and accuracy?
Right. It challenges our linear understanding of time and suggests that maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
there's a dimension of reality where past, present, and future are all intertwined.
It's a concept that has fascinated mystics and philosophers for centuries.
It has.
But even if we can't fully grasp the mechanics of prophecy, we can't deny its impact on history.
And in this case, Jacob's prophecy had a profound impact on the shaping of the Israelite nation. Remember how we talked about the division between the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel?
Yes, that was a pivotal moment in their history.
Well, Ephraim played a key role in that division.
Okay.
They were one of the leading tribes in the northern kingdom,
Uh,
and their influence helped shape the political and religious landscape of that era.
it's amazing to think that this seemingly simple act of blessing,
I know.
this moment between a dying man and his grandsons,
Yeah.
had such far-reaching consequences.
It really underscores the interconnectedness of things, doesn't it?
It does.
How even the smallest actions can ripple out and create waves that impact the course of history.
And it reminds us that we are all part of a larger story,
Yes.
a grand narrative that's unfolding over time.
Mm-hmm.
We may not always understand our role in that story,
Right.
but our choices and actions, no matter how small they may seem,
Mm-hmm.
have the potential to contribute to something much greater than ourselves.
I love that. It's a reminder that we're not just isolated individuals living out our own little dramas.
Right.
We're part of a collective tapestry.
Yes.
And our lives are interwoven with the lives of countless others, both past and present.
And that realization can be both humbling and empowering.
So we've explored the historical impact of Jacob's blessing,
Yeah.
the idea of surrendering to a higher power,
Yeah.
and the fascinating realm of prophecy.
Right.
But I want to circle back to something Matthew Henry said in his commentary that I think is particularly relevant to us today.
Okay.
He talked about the importance of leaving a spiritual legacy.
Yes. A very important concept.
And I think that's something we all grapple with.
Yeah.
Whether we're consciously aware of it or not,
We do.
what kind of mark do we want to leave on the world?
Right.
What do we want to be remembered for?
It's a question that can feel daunting,
It can.
especially in a world that often seems obsessed with material success and fleeting fame.
I know, right? It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of external validation
Yeah.
and forget about the things that truly matter.
It is.
But what if we shifted our focus from what can I achieve to what kind of impact do I want to have on the world?
That's a powerful reframing.
Yeah.
It's about moving from a mindset of self-promotion to a mindset of service.
And it's not just about grand gestures or heroic deeds.
No.
It's about the everyday choices we make,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way we treat others, the values we embody, the love we share.
Those are the things that truly ripple out and create a lasting legacy.
It's about realizing that our lives are not just about us.
Right.
They're about the impact we have on others, the connections we forge,
Yes.
the contributions we make to the collective good.
And that legacy can be as simple as a kind word, a helping hand, a moment of genuine connection.
It's about planting seeds of love, compassion, and wisdom that will continue to grow long after we're gone.
And that's a legacy worth striving for.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Jacob's blessing, I'm struck by how this story, which at first glance might seem like a simple family drama, actually touches on so many profound themes.
It really does. It's like a doorway into deeper reflections on faith, destiny, free will, and the very nature of God's interaction with humanity.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that these aren't just abstract theological concepts.
Right.
They have real-world implications for how we live our lives, how we make choices, and how we understand our place in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. One thing that really stands out for me is this idea that God often works through the unexpected.
Yeah.
Jacob, choosing to bless the younger son Ephraim over the elder Manasseh, went against all tradition.
Right.
And yet, as we've seen, that seemingly small act had a ripple effect that shaped the course of history.
It's a reminder that God's ways are not always our ways.
Right.
And that sometimes the path to greatness lies in embracing the unconventional, the unexpected, the seemingly impossible.
It challenges us to question our assumptions about what constitutes success.
Yeah.
Is it about worldly power, wealth, and recognition?
Yeah.
Or is it about something deeper, something more aligned with God's purpose for our lives?
This story seems to suggest that true success lies in surrendering to a higher power, in aligning our will with the divine will, even when it doesn't make sense to our limited human understanding.
And that surrender isn't about passivity or resignation.
Right.
It's about actively choosing to trust in a wisdom that's greater than our own. in a plan that's unfolding, even when we can't see the full picture.
It's about having the courage to let go of our need for control and embrace the possibility that something truly extraordinary might emerge when we step aside and allow God to work through us.
And that's where the concept of legacy comes in.
Right.
Jacob's blessing wasn't just about favoring one grandson over another.
Mm-hmm.
It was about setting in motion a chain of events that would shape the destiny of an entire nation.
Yeah.
It was about leaving a spiritual inheritance that would impact generations to come.
It makes me wonder what kind of legacy we're leaving behind. Are we so focused on our own immediate needs and desires that we're neglecting the bigger picture? Are we investing in things that will truly matter in the long run?
These are really important questions worth pondering. What values are we passing on to our children and grandchildren? What seeds of kindness, compassion, and wisdom are we planting in the world?
And it's not just about the big splashy gestures. It's about the everyday choices we make.
Yes.
The way we treat others, the words we speak, the actions we take. These seemingly small things can have a ripple effect that extends far beyond our immediate circle.
Think of it this way. Each one of us is like a pebble dropped into a pond.
Okay.
The ripples we create may seem small at first, but they spread out and touch countless other pebbles along the way.
I love that analogy. It's a reminder that we're all interconnected and that our actions, no matter how insignificant they may seem, have the power to make a difference in the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought.
Yeah.
What kind of ripples do you want to create? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
These are questions worth pondering long after this episode ends. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. May the story of Jacob's blessing continue to inspire and challenge you as you navigate your own path and strive to make a meaningful impact on the world around you.